You're good.
All right, good. I see Neil just joined us. My name is Bob Duffy. I am a class of 1986 classmate of Cathy Brennan and a member of the College Alumni Association. Several months ago, another 1986 classmate and College Alumni Association member, Dan Chiarello, nominated Cathy for this award. So I want to thank Dan for his nomination. Today, I have the pleasure of presenting the Achievement Award in Liberal Arts to Cathy Brennan. The Achievement in Liberal Arts Award recognizes an alumni who, through exceptional and sustained success in their chosen career, outstanding character, and loyalty to Drew, have demonstrated the value of a liberal arts education. Earlier this week, I had a typical class of '86 conversation with Cathy. After not spoken a word to each other in 35 years, we were like college students again who bumped into each other at the UC, which is now the EC. We didn't miss a beat. I remember Cathy as a person every club wanted to be treasurer. Good with money, intelligent, honest, and relentless in the pursuit of proper procedure. As a college student, Cathy was soft-spoken, but in a John Wayne type of way, maybe a slightly smaller version of John Wayne. Cathy had the respect of her classmates. She accomplished every task she set out to do and always exceeded everyone's expectations. I am very proud to be her classmate. 8 years after graduating from Drew, Cathy earned a master's degree in economics and from the Graduate Faculty Division of the New School for Social Research. As a graduate student, Cathy discovered the world of professional public service. Nearly 3 decades later, Cathy now serves as New Jersey's Deputy State Treasurer in the administration of Governor Phil Murphy, following almost 25 years with the Office of Legislative Services, the professional and nonpartisan staff of the New Jersey State Legislature. Throughout her tenure, Cathy has played a role of increasing responsibility for every annual state appropriations act since Christy Todd Whitman's first budget in 1994. Tapped for her current role at the beginning of the Murphy administration by State Treasurer Elizabeth Mayo, Cathy transitioned to the executive branch in 2018, where, among other responsibilities, she oversees the Office of Management and Budget and the Office of Revenue and Economic Analysis within the New Jersey Department of the Treasury. Despite her busy professional and family life, Cathy has also remained an engaged alumni, grateful for her experiences at the University in the Forest and outside the Forest when she attended the Brussels semester. She has conducted admission interviews and attended college fairs on Drew's behalf, connected Drew students with jobs and internship opportunities, and last year hosted Professor McGuinn's poli-sci class in Trenton, where students had the opportunity and the pleasure to meet with Governor Murphy and State Treasurer Moyle. She also participates annually in a Drew first-year class called Drew 110. Cathy is an alumni who is always promoting Drew. Working on state budget legislation, Cathy has had to pull her share of all-nighters under the State House dome, requiring a very supportive spouse. Fortunately, Cathy met and married Dan Brennan, the high school best friend of fellow '86 alum Neil Sheridan. Together, they have raised 2 sons, Connor and Colin, who are Cathy's greatest sources of joy and accomplishment. Congratulations, Cathy.
Wow. Thank you, Bob. And I just want to say hello to everyone. Bob, I've really enjoyed catching up with you, and you were absolutely right that you can just, it was like bumping into you in the UC. It was just an instantaneous connection, like we hadn't missed a beat in 35 years. And I've just really enjoyed talking to you over the last couple of weeks. You know, and you were right, and you've said this every time I talk to you, we were part of the best Drew class ever. And I know Joan and Neil, I'm sure, feel the same way. And to Dan Chiarello, who I wish was here today, I just want to say thank you. I am so appreciative to Dan for nominating me for this award, which I, of course, was not expecting. But honestly, I cannot imagine any other recognition that would have been more meaningful for me than to receive this award from my alma mater. I mean, Drew was and is such a special place, and it was a special time for me. And I know it is for Dan and for many of you as well. So I just, when I get the opportunity, I'm going to reach out to Dan and thank him because I really appreciate the nomination and the award. But thank you to Carol Bassi, and who is the director of alumni and parent of the alumni and parent community. Carol's on the call, and Laura Hook and the entire selection committee and the college alumni board. I'm just so appreciative for having been selected for this year's Achievement Award, given all of the accomplished Drew alumni I know are out there, including folks who are on this call. And I know, because I interact with current Drew students regularly, that future Drew alumni will continue to impress and have an impact wherever they go. But before I go any further and talk a little bit about my own Drew experience, I just want to acknowledge and thank everybody who's joined the call today. You are among my oldest and dearest Drew friends. Neil and Joan, you have been not only a big part of my Drew experience, but you continue to play a role in my life and even in the lives of my children. So thank you. And a shout out to Cindy Hespy, one of my colleagues who's here today. She graduated in, what was that, Cindy, 1984, I think. Thank you for joining. Cindy's my slate of colleagues. What was that year?
81.
Oh boy.
Older
Okay.
than you.
You are old. And to my family who is here, my husband Dan and my two boys, Connor and Colin. Absolutely nothing I've accomplished would matter to me without the three of you, nor would I be where I am today in my career without your support. I absolutely love you guys. And I just want to acknowledge my son, Connor, who's off camera. He's beaming in from another time zone and across international lines. My only regret is that today is that my parents cannot be here. My parents are in their early 90s and they're unable to join the Zoom, but I did tell them about this award. And of course, they're as tickled as I am. And I also just would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to just pause and remember some of the people who were very important parts of my Drew experience who are no longer with us. And that would be my classmates, Charles Norton and Steve Foster in particular. Charles and Steve were both very dear friends, and I continue to think of both of them. And to my Drew professors who made Drew for me, I just want to thank my Drew professors, especially the faculty of the economics department, especially Don Cole and Fred Curtis. Two extraordinary teachers who meant a lot to me and did a lot for me. Just thank you all. So when Bob called me a few months ago to inform me that I'd been chosen to receive this year's Achievement Award in the Liberal Arts, there were so many emotions, from shock to gratitude to excitement. And although the award comes in part due to the recognition of the career I've had since leaving Drew, I see this award as representative of the role Drew has played in my life. I truly believe that, but for having attended Drew, I'm not sure my life would have had the same trajectory. In fact, up until the time my children were born, I used to tell people that Drew was the best 4 years of my life, and I really meant that. It was certainly the best college experience I could have had. There is so much I remember about my time at Drew, including how I decided that Drew was the place for me. And that all began on a Saturday morning. I attended an open house during my senior year of high school. And while I was sitting in Brothers College listening to Doug Simon describe Drew's London and Brussels semester, I was absolutely hooked. And I decided right then and there that Drew was the school for me and that I was absolutely going to Brussels. So I left that open house and I applied to just one school, and that was Drew. Now, I know that probably sounds crazy or even odd or scary, given how many schools students typically apply to today. but I knew back then that I had an interest in economics. And when I learned about Drew's Brussels semester on the European Economic Community, as it was known back then, I was absolutely sold, and it was that simple for me. So I landed on the campus in the fall of 1982 for what ultimately became a truly transformational experience. Having grown up in Jersey City, Drew was an absolute oasis for me. Every time I made the 30-minute trip by car from campus to home, it was like being transported to another world. And I know, Joan, you feel that too. We're both city kids. From the gritty city to Drew's bucolic campus and its big oak trees and arboretum, it really felt like home. And it was challenging both academically and personally for me, but it's also what made Drew so life-changing. I distinctly remember calling my father one night during the fall of my freshman year. My dad never attended college himself, but he was extremely well-read, and he was the one person whose judgment I always looked to when I needed important advice. So one evening after classes, around dinner time, I was back in my dorm. I lived in the basement of Tolly my freshman year, and I was feeling completely overwhelmed. And on this particular evening, somewhat distraught, I called my father and I said to him, I don't know anything. I would go to classes during the day, have my mind blown, realize how little I knew about the world. And I called my father and I said, I don't know anything. And my father, the blunt character that he is, simply replied, good. That means you're learning something. That's what you're there for. It was one of my first aha Drew moments, and ultimately there were many of those. It might also come as a surprise to all of you, given my career path, that I wasn't a particularly good student academically. I didn't really have a strong foundation in math coming to Drew. And while I worked really hard, my econ grades were anything but solid. In fact, I recently shared my Drew transcript with my youngest son, Colin, who's on this call, who, without missing a beat, the comedian he is, said, maybe you shouldn't be the deputy state treasurer. I just didn't know how to study when I landed on Drew's campus. In fact, I only learned how to study when I got to my junior year in Brussels. But fortunately for me, my lackluster grades didn't hold me back from actually going to Brussels, because that was the semester things really started to gel for me, and that was the first time I aced my classes. The semester in Brussels was and continues to be one of the highlights, not only of my Drew career, but of my life. It literally and figuratively opened up the world to me in a way only the experience of living abroad can do. So given that I was a bit of a late bloomer at Drew and where I am today in my career, what I think Drew ultimately gave me was the chance to reach my potential. I remember walking between classes with Fred Curtis one day, and he asked me what I was thinking of doing after college. We were having one of those conversations about like, so what do you think you're going to do with your life? And we were walking past the library, and I said in response to the question, I said to Fred, I said, I wanted to be David Stockman. Now that's really dating myself, because David Stockman was Ronald Reagan's OMB director, but here I am. And I've had a front row seat to New Jersey state budget process for the last 30 years, working first for the legislature and now for the state treasurer and governor. And if I continue to elaborate on the theme of dating myself, along with everyone else here from the class of 1986 who's celebrating our 35th reunion year, let me just remind one and all that we attended Drew as freshmen without the benefit of a personal computer, although we did have typewriters, and we entered the workforce before any of us had cell phones or access to the internet. Of course, by the time we made it back to campus our sophomore year, Drew was the first school in the country to offer every incoming freshman a PC. And believe it or not, I still have my original CPM Epson computer, as well as a few floppy disks. But I don't bring up those items just to make us all feel old. I mention these things because when the class of '86 graduated, we could not have imagined the world we were living in today. In fact, I recall the writer Richard Reeves, our commencement speaker, and who was also the father of one of our classmates, Jeff Reeves, telling us that by the time our working lives were over, we would have 7 or 8 different careers. And what he meant by that was, as the economy and technology evolved, so would we. And the jobs we might find ourselves in likely didn't even existed as we sat on the back lawn of Mead Hall preparing to receive our diplomas. Which is why the benefits we all derive from having attended Drew, the ability to think critically, support our arguments, to have civil discussions, and to write clearly, were so perfect in preparing us to be successful and to contribute in whatever way speaks to each of us. Drew did that for me, and I will be forever grateful for not just the place called Drew, but for every person and experience Drew has led me to. I have so much to be grateful for that I owe to the university. And to my fellow alumni on this call, I know I'm speaking to the choir because you are active and engaged alumni. But to anybody who might be listening to this after the fact, I would just encourage you all to do what you can to ensure that Drew continues to thrive. Bob and I have discussed this, but what we can all do for the university can be so simple, even just sharing university posts on social media. Or my preference is to mentor students and connect them with opportunities. Just yesterday, I spoke to a rising Drew senior, and I have one of Steve Firestone's masters in finance students, a relatively new program at Drew, fulfilling his final graduation requirements through an internship in my office this summer. But there are so many things we can all do, big and small, to be supportive of Drew. And if you haven't been to campus recently, I would encourage you to visit when you can, because you would be so impressed. It's changed, but it's as beautiful as ever. But most importantly, I hope we'll all just stay connected to Drew and to each other. And again, I just want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for this award today. I'm extremely grateful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And this is the award. Receive this in the mail.
Well, I'm glad you got it. And Cathy, I hope you'll be able to come to campus next year. We're going to obviously present the 2022 awards, but we also want to honor our 2020 and 2021 recipients at the same time.
That would be super. I would so look forward to coming to campus. I actually have been on the campus once or twice this past year. And it's so impressive to see all of the capital improvements since we graduated, and just the campus just looks terrific. Just a lot of memories.
Yeah, great. So you have this space, as did the last group, right up until about, I'll kick you out 5 minutes or 5 minutes before, but please feel free to talk amongst yourselves, and congratulations again, Cathy.
Thank you. And I just want to give a shout out. I see Mary Emanuele has also joined the call. Mary graduated the year after we did in 1987.
I just want to say congratulations, CZ, and what a great honor it is, a well-deserved recognition. And you've always been a strong advocate for Drew, as well as for everything else. But just to share something that maybe other people don't know on this call, but last year I gave to CZ a letter that she had written to me 35 years ago when I was in Brussels studying on the economic semester that she was referring to. CZ went a year ahead of me. So that letter actually stated in her same great handwriting to this day that she would like one day to visit Poland. Imagine what was it? We were 18, 19 years old back then. And her dreams came true. And her will, CZ's will has always been there. What she puts her mind to, like Bob stated, how she was in the treasury, working at the student government at Drew, has always been a trait of Cathy. But Cathy, thank you also for everyone else. Cathy was the one who encouraged me as a new transfer student to apply to the Brussels semester. I remember just meeting her like on the hall that first week that she came back, and and she was just so authentic. And I said, oh no, I can't afford it. And same thing, you know, we got parents who are struggling immigrants living in the Newark area. And imagine just plopping yourself at a very upper crust university where you just saw everyone had everything, I thought. But she said, Joan, and I would still remember to this day, if I can do it, Joan, and I went, you can do it. So that has been her motto throughout her whole life. And so I applied and I did. And like she stated earlier, it was a great, immense experience for me. I got the London room run by an Italian elderly person, and I traced CZ's steps from the place in London where she stayed at first, to the ferry ride that she told me to go across to Dover, and even at the same apartment that she also had roomed with when she was at the Brussels semester. So again, I really want to thank you, CZ. You have enriched my life, and I am so grateful for you, just being your authentic self and just being able to allow me to just be myself over at Drew too. That there was also someone who was from the city, who didn't have everything, who couldn't just pick up a phone and money would be plotted right there for you. And really to just give me the encouragement to just keep on going in any adversity that came through our lives. And thank you for being there through those up and down times throughout these 35 years as well. Thank you so much. And thank you to the family as well. Without the Brennans, you know, it's always thrilling to hear your stories.
We love you, Joan. We love you, Joan. And for those on the call who may not know, Joan actually is my son Colin's godmother. We've been, since the day we roomed at Drew, we have been, you know, just the best of friends. And Joan has played an important part of our lives. But it's funny because I pulled out that letter I wrote to you that you gave me recently. You gave me back recently, that I wrote to you in 1985. Year you followed me to Brussels. You know, and it was just, it's a very entertaining read. It would be, you know, for somebody who hasn't experienced Brussels and out of context, it would be a little odd, you know, to read the letter, but, you know, it just had me reminiscing about, you know, you could really visualize and put yourself back in Brussels and that whole era and time. So thanks, Joan.
If I can take a moment, I would like to provide a different aspect of my, you know, of Cathy Brennan's career, because I met her when she started at the Office of Legislative Services. We have worked together in a professional capacity, become the closest of friends. I am grateful every day for your friendship and your support, Cathy. But she is brilliant. She is extraordinarily well regarded in a very, very important aspect of state government. The legislature, as we all know, creates the laws. We worked together. I'm still in the office. I'm getting ready to retire, but Cathy and I worked together until she left to go to the governor's state treasurer's office on important pieces of legislation. And I have been able to see how smart she is, how capable she is, how hard she works. And I have never had any doubt that she was going to achieve the level of her career that she's at now. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind she can go further if she chooses to do so. She's a very loyal person, a very caring and supportive friend. And I hope I have always been that person to her. She means the world to me. But on a professional level, on a professional basis, there's nobody better. She's stellar. And I enjoyed my time at Drew as well. And I think that the going to school in a very small place where you knew your professors, you were not just a name and not just a number. I think that it has helped all of us, achieve our potential. And she is extraordinarily well regarded in Trenton, and the award is very, very, very well deserved and very well earned. And I just wanted to make sure, from my perspective, knowing her in a different manner, that I let you all know that it's absolutely well deserved. Kudos to you, Cathy.
Hi, Cathy. It's Mary. So you talk about how things have changed since we graduated. Here I am on this from my phone. Who would have thought? So the reason I'm on my phone, though, is in a way you're partially responsible, because we're on our way to Liberty State Park for one of their nature walks. And without all of the work that was done by you and your team at the legislative office, there's things like Liberty State Park being open for everyone to enjoy wouldn't be possible.
Well, I don't think I can take credit for Liberty State Park.
Well, but the legislative office, the budget that you worked on, but you're part of that whole part of making the state run in the budget.
Now I have something to add, though. Although Liberty State Park was founded way before I had any role in state government, but what I will tell you is that as a Girl Scout up in Jersey City, I actually had the honor of raising the American flag on opening day in Liberty State Park. I will never forget that, but I was there in 1976 in my little Girl Scout uniform, raising the American flag. So that is my involvement with Liberty State Park.
And of course, Cathy, my kids always like to brag that they know you. So you're like, they brag about who they know and make themselves sound really important.
So Mary's son, Peter, is a student at Notre Dame, and he is doing an internship this year. He's a very talented mathematics student, and he is doing an internship with our Office of Revenue and Economic Analysis, and we're happy to have him this summer. It runs in Mary's family. Mary's mother was a math professor. Mary is very mathematically talented. Actually, before I enrolled in graduate school, when I was trying to get up to speed on my math skills, my higher level math, that really was a burden to me as an undergraduate, the econometrics and whatnot. I actually spent many a tutorial session with Mary's mother, who, as I said, is a math professor. And so I did that, getting up to speed before I went to grad school.
I think it's my turn. It's such a joy to see everybody. And Joan, I think we saw each other maybe 10 years ago, briefly over the holidays. But Bob, just to be able to see Cathy Brennan bring tears to your eyes, I saw you wipe them away discreetly a few times. That was worth a 35-year wait. And Laura Hook, who, Laura was responsible for many of the things I ended up getting involved with the Drew. But, something you said, Cathy, really struck me about, the choice of going to Drew, and it was your one school. I sit here and, I don't believe that your destiny is foretold. I think we get to make choices. I can't imagine who I would be if I hadn't gone to Drew. If I had chosen some of the other schools that I, all of which were fine options, but Drew was such a complete transformation of who we are, how we think, how we deal with each other, how we respect each other. I mean, it really was wonderful. And Cathy, I have to thank you also for winning this award, because that meant none of the other people on this phone had to win the award and get the celebratory speech made about them or have to give a celebratory speech. And you did it brilliantly. And Bob, thank you for being such a good host. It really was, it was wonderful to watch your career develop, Cathy. And I don't think, Cindy, I respectfully say I've been monitoring Cathy, not as deeply as you have over the years, but, touching base and seeing them over the holidays. I would not have predicted state treasurer. I always thought she was going to run for an office of some sort. But then, taking care of Dan and Connor and Colin was so intensive. It's easier to run the state treasury than it would be to run, for political office when you've got 3 constituents at home. Dan Brennan and I have been friends since we were 12. Well, I was 12, he was 13. And brilliant. If you've never met Dan, Dan is a genius in his own right. And when the two of them hit it off, I had a group of friends in Jersey City, and we were going skiing, and Dan and I were going, and we invited Cathy to hop in our car, just the three of us. And I drove the first leg, and then Cathy drove the next leg. Nearly drove us right into the ditch right off the bat, but I fell asleep in the back, and the two of them talked for 3 or 4 hours, and that really laid the foundation for it. And it was clear from early on, I think Joan would agree, they really were the perfect couple, and you have been. So I see Colin is on the phone, unbelievably brilliant. You know, the greatest gift I think that the two of you have given Colin is his ability to discern, to decide, and to learn. And I think you're carrying on the next generation. So I don't want to go much longer. I want to say what a joy it's been to know all of you. I'm sorry that we've had a gap, a couple of years here or there. You know, before you know it, it'll be the 50th reunion. But Cathy, I'm so glad that you are the nominee, you're the honoree, and that we've all had the chance to know and love you so well.
Thank you. Thank you, Cindy and Mary and Neil. I think you can all gather Neil plays a very special role in our lives. So I didn't really know Neil too well while he was a Drew, because Neil was one of the ruggers, and that wasn't really my crowd. But after graduation, I ran into Neil on a New York City subway, and he invited me to a party in Jersey City, and it was at that Christmas party that I was invited to go on a ski trip. And as Neil says, the rest is history. But Neil and Joan play, you know, a huge part in our family life, and have meant so much to us over the years. And it's just, you know, you guys are part of what made Drew for me, and you continue to be part of my life. And I'm just so happy you could join today. Neil is out in Michigan these days.
Cathy showed up 45 minutes early to that Christmas party, volunteering to help get set up. And that contrast of Dan, who wonderful, loving guy that he is, typically an hour to an hour and a half late for anything he does, and overpacked to the extreme. So 45 minutes early, hour and a half late. Cathy talked about the importance of math in our lives. If you marry them and let them live together for a while, what do you think the new number of Brennan arrival at any given event would be? That's right, an hour and a half late.
Yes, it's hard to move the immovable object. So, so Bob, what are you doing these days? I know you work for your family's company, and you were not part of the rugger scene at Drew, though, I don't believe.
No, I wasn't. I just got a quick text from Dan Chiarello. He's sort of running late, so hopefully he'll be able to hop on quick. Yeah, no, I'm commercial real estate, so I'm keeping busy. But I really thought it was interesting, you know, when you spoke after, you know, accepting the award, and I know, my impression of you was, I guess, when you turn out, just you know, very smart, very hardworking, and you know, it got deflated a little bit when you talked about your transcript. I was like, of course she was at the top of the class, but
Nope.
no, but it's a lot of hard work. Actually, Dan just hopped on, so
Yeah.
but
And I can remember being at we were skiing up in Vermont, and you know, there was some casual conversation going on, and Neil said something to me about like, well, of course you had a high GPA. And I was like, no, but I didn't say anything. You know, I did struggle at Drew, but I also think that's part of my story, is that, you know, you don't have to, you know, the people who ultimately, you know, like who you are is not defined by your transcript. And, you know, I worked really hard, and it just wasn't always reflected in my grades. But, you know, so that's why it kind of took me 8 years to get to grad school, because I did something else first. I almost was 3 credits shy of a writing minor at Drew. And so I went into the publishing industry because I had this economics degree, a writing minor, and really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I had done summers on Wall Street, knew I didn't want to work there. And so I worked in publishing for 5 years before I went back to school. But first I had to meet with Mary's mom and brush up on my math and kind of get up to speed. But when I did get to grad school, things that didn't click as an undergraduate, like econometrics and statistics, all of that started to click in then. But it was a journey. So, and I think that's part of the point, it just, it's not, don't have to just be an A student to, to do okay. Dan, thank you for coming on. And Dan, I can't thank you enough because first of all, thank you for the nomination. But I think Drew means as much to both of us. It means so much to both of us. You're not just an alumni of the class of '86 like I am, but you're also a Drew parent. And I know that whenever you can, you try and engage with Drew, and I see you on the Drew 101 calls. And but I wanted to thank you so much for the nomination, and you're doing good things yourself. For those that don't know, Dan was elected locally in his community of Sparta within the last year or two. And we have talked prior to this whole process, but Dan, congratulations, because you're doing things in your own right. But thank you for nominating me.
Of course, thank you. And I'm so sorry I got involved in something, and I'm covered in sweat right now, if you can't tell. And I just went back to check the phone. I'm like, oh no. So I'm sorry I'm late, but thank you though. It's good to see your face again, and everybody else. Couldn't go to a more deserving person.
Thank you. So, so we also have Mary Emanuele on the call. Mary, and it looks like Joan Choi was on the call. She dropped off, and I don't know where she is on your screen, Dan, but Cindy Hespy's on the call. She's a Drew alumni from, I think you said class of '81, Cindy. She's a legislative colleague of mine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and you can, and you can see Neil's on the call, and my husband and my son.
Hey guys.
And my daughter, class of 2019, is behind me listening to the call.
Ah,
Wow.
Yes, I'm that old that I actually have one that graduated from Drew. I don't know how that happened to us all. How do we have kids this old?
Yeah, it's amazing. My father graduated class of 1937, and he missed a year. He dropped out a year, so he would have been exactly 50 years apart.
wow. And has your son graduated yet?
No, he finished junior year. He's got one more year, so he's going to be back on campus. He's in Hoyters last year.
Okay.
But he was in Asbury his sophomore year, so I guess that's the dorm now.
Yeah, and Hoyt was no longer, when Josephine was there, like nobody wanted to be in Hoyt.
Because Hoyt, that was the cool dorm. That was
the party dorm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like Suites your junior year, and Hoyt was.
I think that was the rugger dorm.
Yeah, pretty much.
Neil, you want to put an input on that one?
I was going to say, I'm like,
Neil, don't you have something to contribute there?
I want to say that my housing was picked for me from London by Don Thorin by proxy. And so my senior year, I spent the first half of my senior year in Holloway in one of those tiny little rooms on the side. So when I got to transfer to Hoyt, you can believe that I was ready for it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hoyt had the really tall ceilings, because I remember John Lozier and Sean, they built this little loft, and even with that, they had so much room in their bed that they put together.
All the parties in the triple, right on the first floor. Remember there was one triple right in the front?
Lots of popcorn on the floor.
On the lodge. Bob, I had the room in Hoyt that had the Irish flag flying from it on the second floor. So I did my part for the Celtics.
I remember that.
There you go.
That's Tara, yeah. And she was on the ski trip, I think Cathy referred to, which since we're on a closed circuit, she hurt her knee, which she used to tell was from skiing, but it was actually climbing over the keg to go to the bathroom in the back of the bus. And that's how she hurt her knee on the way to the slip.
I hurt my knee before that.
Okay, well, she re-injured her knee climbing over a keg to go to the bathroom at the back of the bus. So that's her ski injury. But yeah, a lot of great memories, obviously.
Bob, if you don't mind, you are the MC. I don't want to intrude, but Dan Brennan is on the phone. And I know that neither Dan nor Colin wax poetic eagerly in strange settings like this. So I'm not going to put Colin on the spot, but Dan, I'd love to hear a few words from you.
All right. Anybody hear me? You guys all right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so a couple of things. One, okay, Cathy did not almost wreck the car. She was driving my car and I had no headlight knob. So when we pulled out of the parking lot, we ended up on a ramp that was in the dark and she had to find the headlights fast. And of course, there was no knob for her to grab. So she was driving a strange car. We stopped on the ramp and Neil kind of poked his head up and said, okay, there's headlights behind us. Why are we stopped? And so that was the uneasy beginning of a tough time for Cathy driving. And then we got settled down and it was a wonderful trip. Talk about ski injuries. Poor Cathy did have one serious face plant coming down the slope one time. And she looks at me and says, am I bleeding? I'm like, oh, no, you're fine. And then she goes to the bathroom, comes back and yells at me because she did have a little bit of a thing on the nose.
Okay, see what you did, Neil?
But
Well, I should
and
warn
the same
everybody
thing
else.
as far as immovable
No, I don't
objects.
think that's, yeah, I don't think that's the direction, but, so
Wait.
Dan, what you missed is that, we were talking earlier before you joined the call about how, Neil was our mutual introduction because my husband Neil went to high school with Dan and we were
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
the trip by which
Dan,
we met.
I do want to warn everybody that Dan Brennan has a memory where he can tell me what I wore and said on a given day in high school. So we could be here for a week regaled by Dan's memories of Cathy and us. But Dan, I just want to say I'm so glad that the two of you met. And, you know, behind every great deputy state treasurer stands a great husband.
Yes, I will say, and I really thought that was important to note because we've sort of had a bit of role reversal in our house. And my husband, when I met him, was a career chemist for a pharmaceutical company in New Jersey. We both put each other through grad school. Dan went to the graduate program at UMDNJ. And but he teaches science now because after we had kids, we sort of something had to give. And so in order for me to spend late nights in the State House and drafting budget legislation, you know, I would do pickups, drop-offs in the morning, and Dan did pickups, and Dan did summers. And because the budget season and the fiscal year in Trenton runs through June 30th, I needed a lot of support at home. So whether it was my mother running down the turnpike from Bayonne down the Parkway to where we live in Monmouth County, or my husband backing me up, like I just, would not be where I am in my career if I didn't have that support at home. So.
Well, I gotta say, I had only pleasure in these last 30 years we've been together, Kath. And she's given me a wonderful opportunity to be the dad around, to be present with my kids, which is something I personally have always valued. And my father put that into me, and I've really appreciated it. And Cathy is the most organized, just figures out everything without delay person that I've ever known. So much to Neil's, much kind of against what Neil said, I actually have become a much more timely person. It's taken some years, but I do get my act together, and she has been the most best influence and has given my guys and me just the best life we possibly could imagine. And I am glad that we don't work together in the same place, because when we're in the kitchen together, we don't really get along, because Cathy has a very great way of doing things and I have very warped way of doing things. So, but her administration ability is unquestionable, and it's fantastic. So I've really had a great time with her all these years, of course. And it's really great for me to see her get some recognition for what she's done. And it's great that Cindy was online, because the work world for Cathy is so big, and while she's been so attached to Drew, and I understand how great Drew is, because I went to a small school, Ryder College. and I'm very close with my roommate from college still. Her business, the work world for Cathy is really where she has excelled, and it's great to see some recognition for that. So I'm very happy. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan. So. Just thank you all again. I'm just, like I said earlier, Dan, I never expected this, but it means so much to me because my alma mater means so much to me. So just thank you all for today.
Well, I want to also quickly second the thought that you run for public office because you.
No.
No,
I've been around politicians too long.
Well, that's why you'd probably get elected. But you just not only the resume, but the genuineness that you have, I think, would be super refreshing for people.
Yeah, it's well, Dan can tell you it's not easy, it's not easy to run. It takes a lot of courage to run. I give a lot of credit to people who put themselves out there and run. It's not to be a public official is not an easy choice. And it's difficult. And it's just, I mean, Dan, you can elaborate on that, firsthand.
I remember, so I was a councilman for all of like a couple of weeks, and it was the Read Across America Day, and at our council, we had this practice of we fan out to different schools in the area, and we all read a book to the students. So I was tasked with reading a book to, there was a mix of grades from like kindergarten to second grade. They were very young kids. And I sat down with the, and the kids are getting ready, and the teacher comes up to me, and the first thing she said was, "Oh, so you're a politician?" And I'm like, "Wow, I guess I am." But it was the derision in the voice was just so weird, and that's how she introduced herself to me. And I remember I had to say, "No, I'm a public servant. That's what I'm doing. I'm here because I'm serving my community. I'm not a politician." But that's the attitude I think you have to bring to you're there to serve your community and make decisions. And I was at a police event last night, a promotion for a couple of policemen. Before that, there was an opening ceremony of a business. I mean, every week there's one or two things like that. You're going to a funeral for the father of somebody, and a Girl Scout gets an award, and that's where your time is spent in the community. And it's a lot of time. That's the stuff that you don't think of when you're running for the office.
Yeah.
Bob, I think you're on the right path, though. If we can't get her to run, though, we've got 15 years to get her in as Fed chairman.
Well, we do now have a woman, so
Yeah.
woman at U.S. Treasury. So
Yeah.
So, but no, it's I have a lot of politicians get a bad name, but working in Trenton for the past 30 years, like I said, I really have a lot of respect for people that put themselves out there, because running for office is not easy business at all. And it's, I've seen good and bad on both sides of the aisle. For most of my career, I worked for the nonpartisan office of the state legislature. I worked the Office of Legislative Services as the professional staff. And like, Cindy was part of that, part of the staff at OLS, and they draft the bills, they staff the committees, they do research, they do formal legal opinions. They do all the, they are the professional staff, and as the politicians come and go, they stay. And it's just to have a front row seat like that, has just, for somebody I consider myself a current events junkie, to like read the paper and come into work, or to listen to the radio on the way into work and know what your day is going to be like because of what's blowing up on the radio. My job just has kept me so engaged, just because it's so relevant. And, but I would not want to be an elected official. So I give
you do. You secretly you do.
No, I really do give you a lot of credit for running.
Actually, the running part to me was fun because I had no pretense about winning, because nobody from my party ever wins in my town. I haven't even run in like 15, 20 years. And I just had fun, like, doing goofy stuff, like my Naked and Afraid and Sparta video that put out there to
Mhm.
just like fun stuff. And I still can't get over the shock that I actually won. But so actually the running part to me was the
So
fun
be
part.
careful what you ask for.
Yeah, exactly. And then I remember looking at the results on election day. I'm like, does this mean what I think it means? Like, now what? It's kind of like, not really, but it's the same image of. I remember when my first son was born, and Lisa's there. We got David, and you're like, now what? You have a whole new life now.
Right.
That was fun.